Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in. If you're new here, consider subscribing. It really helps keep these stories coming. And while you're here, let me know in the comments where you're listening from. Now, sit back, relax, and let's get into the story. It started with the sirens. Not the usual kind you hear in the city, police or ambulance. No, this one was low and constant, like a horn dragging itself across concrete. The kind of sound that makes your gut twist before your brain catches up. I was at home, sitting on my worn couch in a dim apartment, watching reruns and eating cereal that had gone stale 2 days ago. The sirens didn't stop. They just kept going, pulsing through the walls like a heartbeat. Then came the emergency alert. Every phone in the building buzzed at once. A robotic voice came through my screen. Emergency alert, quarantine zone breach, seek immediate shelter, do not approach infected individuals. I dropped my spoon. Quarantine zone? Breach? I live 2 blocks from the southern perimeter. We always joked about it. The concrete walls, the patrols, the strange trucks that rolled in at night. Nobody ever said what was in there, but rumors? Yeah, we had plenty. Some said it was a chemical facility gone wrong. Others claimed secret experiments, people disappearing, strange howls at night. I didn't believe any of it until now. From my window, I saw people outside staring up at the sky. Then panic. A man sprinted down the street, barefoot and screaming. Behind him, more people ran, scattering like roaches when the lights flip on. But what made my heart freeze was the figure limping behind them. Something about the way it moved was all wrong. Its joints bent in strange directions, its head twitching violently side to side. I turned away from the window and backed into my kitchen. Locked the door, bolted it. My hands trembled as I reached for my old emergency radio. Static, then a faint voice. If you are within 10 blocks of the breach, evacuate north. Repeat, evacuate north, do not wait. Do not attempt to collect belongings. Avoid contact. The voice cut off in a screech of feedback. I was alone. The power went out minutes later. Everything plunged into darkness. My phone had 2 bars of battery, no signal. Then came the banging. Faint at first, echoing through the hallway, someone pounding on doors. Then screams, doors splintering. A thud. Silence. I pressed myself into the corner of the living room, gripping a fire extinguisher I never thought I'd have to use. I wasn't ready, nobody was. The banging stopped. Not faded, stopped, like someone flipped a switch and drained the air of every sound. I stayed frozen, holding the fire extinguisher tight to my chest, trying not to breathe too loud. Every creak from the ceiling, every groan from the walls sounded like it was crawling toward me. Then the hallway light flickered. Just once, then twice. That shouldn't have happened, the power was out. But something was drawing power from somewhere. That was enough to get me moving. I crept toward the front door and placed my ear against it. Silence. I waited another full minute before sliding the peephole cover aside. No one was there. But the hallway? It was a mess. Bloody handprints smeared across the walls. The elevator panel cracked open like someone had hit it with a hammer. The lights flickered in a sick rhythm, casting long shadows that danced in the corners. I had 2 options: stay here and wait, or move. I chose to move. I slid the deadbolt back, careful not to make a sound. When I opened the door, I stepped into a different world. The smell hit me first. Something between rotten meat and burned plastic. I had to cover my mouth with my sleeve just to breathe. Apartment 304's door was wide open. There was a trail of something dark and wet leading into the room, like someone had been dragged inside. I didn't look. I tiptoed down the hall toward the stairwell. Every step felt like it echoed for miles. Then I heard it. Soft, wet chewing. I froze. It was coming from the stairwell. I peeked around the corner. That's when I saw her. Miss Cartwright, my neighbor. A sweet lady in her 70s who always watered her plants twice a day and gave out hard candy like it was still Halloween. She was on her knees, hunched over something. Her white cardigan was soaked in red, and her mouth moved in fast jerks as she tore into whatever was in front of her. It was Mr. Lambert. His leg twitched once, then stopped. I backed away fast. A shoe squeaked against the floor. Miss Cartwright turned. Her face, it didn't look real. Eyes bloodshot and wide, skin stretched too tight across her cheeks, jaw stained with red. Her teeth were cracked and chipped. She shrieked. It wasn't human. I ran. Down the opposite hall, across the corridor, straight for the fire exit. I slammed it open and rushed into the stairwell, not looking back. Whatever she was now, whatever any of them were, it was spreading fast. As I descended the steps, another alert buzzed on my phone. Emergency update, breach confirmed. Infection spreading, martial law declared. Do not attempt to travel alone. Too late. I hit the ground floor, lungs burning, knees aching. I hadn't run that fast since high school. My legs wanted to give out, but my brain screamed louder, move or die. The lobby was chaos. Furniture overturned, glass everywhere. Blood smeared on the welcome mat. The front door was wide open, swinging in the wind. The security guard, Melvin, big guy, always humming old jazz songs, was sprawled across the reception desk. At first, I thought he was unconscious. Then, I saw the hole in his neck. I stepped around him carefully and peeked outside. Streetlights flickered overhead. Cars were abandoned in the middle of the road, doors hanging open. One was still running, hazard lights blinking like a slow heartbeat. A body lay across the hood, unmoving. The evacuation alert said head north. I turned left and took off. A block away, I heard gunshots. Short bursts, controlled, military style. Then screaming. I ducked into an alley, crouched behind a dumpster and waited. A group of soldiers in dark uniforms rushed past the main street, weapons drawn. One of them barked into a radio. Unit 3 to command, we've got movement near 7th and Ash. No civilians spotted, containment is failing. Containment. They weren't here to rescue anyone, they were here to clean up. I kept low and moved parallel to their route, using back streets and alleyways. The sounds of the city were shifting. Sirens, shouts, shattering windows. And underneath all of it, something worse. Growls. Not like dogs. Throaty, hungry, some sounded far, others too close. I passed a small convenience store. Someone had barricaded the door with shelving units. A figure was pressed against the glass from the inside, mouthing words I couldn't hear. Then, something yanked him backward. The lights went out in the store. I didn't stop running. By the time I reached the bridge, one of the last northern exit routes from the quarantine zone, dozens of people had already gathered. Cars lined up bumper to bumper, trying to flee. Then came the helicopters. Bright lights flooded the bridge. A voice echoed from above. This area is under lockdown. Return to your homes. Do not attempt to cross the bridge. People shouted back. Some ran forward. That's when the loudspeaker gave a final warning. Lethal force authorized. The first shot came from the far end. A single pop, then another. Panic erupted. People scattered. Some jumped off the bridge into the river below. I dove behind a wrecked SUV and covered my head as the crowd turned into chaos. That's when I saw them. Figures moving through the smoke and flashing lights. Fast, erratic, impossible to predict. Not soldiers. The infected. They hit the crowd like a wave. The infected didn't run like people. They flailed, jerked, slammed into anything in their path. No coordination. No fear, just raw, violent motion. And they were fast. One of them tackled a soldier so hard they both flew over the railing. Another leapt onto a car roof and launched itself at a man trying to climb the barricade. He didn't scream. He didn't have time. Just a flash of red and silence. I didn't wait. I backed away from the bridge and slipped down the embankment toward the river. A chain-link fence ran alongside the concrete slope, bent and torn in places. I found a gap wide enough to squeeze through, then followed the riverbank north, feet slipping on mud and rocks. Behind me, the bridge was a war zone. Gunfire, screams. Flares lighting the sky in red and white. Shadows twisted across the water like they were alive. I kept going. Eventually, I came across an old drainage tunnel, a giant pipe half submerged in water. Not ideal, but it beat staying out in the open. Inside, it stank like rust and mildew. I pulled my hoodie over my nose and crept deeper. The tunnel curved slightly, swallowing all light. I turned on my phone's flashlight, just enough to see a few feet ahead. Then I heard footsteps behind me. Not human footsteps. Something dragging, wet. I shut off the light and held my breath. The sound came closer. Slap, drag, slap, drag, and silence. I stayed perfectly still. Minutes passed, or maybe it was just seconds. Time lost meaning in that pitch black. Eventually, I risked turning the light back on. No one there. I moved faster, following the curve of the tunnel until I found a ladder leading up. Rusty, slick, but solid enough. I climbed. At the top was a grate. I pushed. It didn't budge. I put all my weight into it. Still nothing. Then I heard it again. That dragging sound. Closer this time. I shoved the grate hard. Something cracked. Again, harder. A groan echoed behind me, long and low like a creature trying to mimic a human cry. I screamed and threw myself against the grate one last time. It burst open. I clawed my way out into a deserted parking lot behind a warehouse. The sky was starting to lighten with early dawn. Birds chirped somewhere far off. It almost felt normal. But I wasn't alone. Across the lot, someone stood watching me. A young man, maybe early 20s, holding a crowbar. Dirty hoodie, wild eyes, blood smeared across one arm. He didn't move. "Hey," I called out, unsure if he was one of them. He pointed behind me. I turned. From the tunnel, something was crawling out. I didn't get a good look. I didn't want to. The guy ran, and I followed. We ran without speaking. The guy led me through a side door into the warehouse. Inside, it was mostly dark. Rows of metal shelves, crates, and broken forklifts cast huge shadows across the concrete floor. He slammed the door shut behind us and wedged a crowbar through the handle. For a while, neither of us said anything. Just listened. Whatever had crawled out of that tunnel wasn't following us. Yet. He finally spoke. "Name's Leo." "Eric," I said, still out of breath. "Thanks for not leaving me." Leo nodded and motioned for me to follow him up a staircase that led to a storage loft overlooking the floor. A few battery-powered lanterns lit the space. There were signs people had camped there, sleeping bags, snack wrappers, empty water jugs. "We were about 10 in here," he said, voice low. "Now it's 3. Maybe 4 if Terry made it back." "What happened to the others?" Leo gave a tired shrug. "They went looking for supplies or tried to find their families. No one came back." I sat down, knees aching, body shaking. "How long have you been in here?" "Since the first breach. News said it started in Zone B, but I saw people turning in Zone A 2 days before that. Whatever this is, it didn't start where they said it did. I didn't reply. My head was still spinning. The alerts, the bridge, the screams. Leo handed me a granola bar. I didn't ask where he got it. He pointed to a corkboard on the wall with a map of the city. Military set up checkpoints at these spots, but they're not there to rescue anyone. They're locking things down, keeping the infection in. How do you know? I saw them block off roads, trap whole groups inside buildings. Watched a medevac helicopter take off with suits on board and leave behind the crowd that needed help. He rubbed his face. They're not trying to fix this. They're just trying to contain it. I stared at the map. Our location was marked with a red circle. Past that, a line of black X's. The radio said a supply drop is coming near the stadium, Leo added. Tomorrow morning. Could be our last shot. Are you going? I don't think we have a choice. A sharp crash echoed below, something metal falling over. We froze. Leo signaled for silence and crept toward the loft edge. He peered down between crates. Then he cursed under his breath. I joined him and looked. Something had gotten inside. It stood near the center of the warehouse, back hunched, arms twitching like they were no longer connected to the brain. It wasn't one of the fast ones. It was worse. Its body twitched with every step, like it didn't know how to walk but forced itself anyway. Its head turned slowly toward the loft. Its eyes were white, completely. Leo whispered, "It can't see, but it can hear." As if on cue, the creature let out a long, dry rattle, like it was clearing a throat made of sand, and then bolted straight toward the sound of the voice. The creature slammed into the shelves below us, sending crates flying. Leo grabbed my arm and yanked me back, whispering fast, "Stay quiet, move slow." We crept across the loft, careful not to make the floorboards creak. Below, the infected thing hissed and twitched, head jerking at every small sound. It wasn't just shambling, it was listening. It knocked over a box of bolts. The sound scattered like rain on concrete. The thing shrieked and rushed toward it, arms flailing like antennae trying to catch the noise. Leo and I made it to the other side of the loft and down a ladder, step by step, barely breathing. I could feel my heartbeat in my ears. One misstep, and it'd be over. We reached the back exit. Leo pulled open the door slowly, but it let out a squeak. The creature screamed. We bolted, out the door, into the morning light. We didn't look back, didn't check if it was chasing us. We just ran through the industrial lot, past wrecked delivery trucks and overgrown fencing. The sun was barely rising, sky painted orange, but it felt like midnight in my mind. We followed the signs toward the stadium. It wasn't far now. On the way, we saw what was left of the city, smoke trails in the sky, entire buildings blackened by fire, cars overturned and crawling with the infected, no rescue in sight. But the radio had been clear, 9 a.m., emergency drop, north side of the stadium. Supplies, maybe a chance. We arrived just before the hour. The stadium was surrounded by debris and old barricades, but the field itself was open. A handful of survivors stood clustered near the 50-yard line, looking up. That's when we saw it. A helicopter, real, not military, civilian design. A crate dangled beneath it, slowly lowering to the field. People rushed forward. Leo grabbed my arm. "Stay back, wait." He was right. A woman reached the crate first, and as soon as she touched it, she froze. The infected had been hiding inside the stadium tunnels, dozens, maybe more. They flooded the field like ants from a broken hill. The survivors scattered. Some tried to climb the bleachers, others ran toward the fence. One poor guy just dropped to his knees. I was ready to run, but Leo grabbed the crowbar from his bag and yelled, "We can't run forever." He charged straight into the swarm. I wanted to scream for him to stop, but I couldn't make a sound. He swung, ducked, dodged, taking down 3 of them before they pulled him under. That was the last I saw of Leo. I found a small maintenance tunnel beneath the bleachers and crawled inside, shaking, soaked in sweat, ears ringing with distant screams. That's where I am now. I found an emergency radio left by someone who didn't make it. I've been broadcasting this message every hour. To anyone still alive. The city is lost. The breach wasn't an accident. They knew this would happen. If you can hear this, don't wait for rescue. Don't trust the safe zones. Get out, and whatever you do, stay quiet. I lost track of time in that tunnel. My radio kept repeating the same message on loop. I kept it low, just enough to maybe reach someone, anyone. The battery light blinked red, but I didn't have the heart to shut it off. I ate the last protein bar Leo gave me. Water was gone too. My throat was dry, my hands were shaking. I don't know if it was fear or hunger anymore. Then, something changed. Through the static, the radio stuttered. Not my recording, a real voice, broken and faint. North Perimeter. Repeat, survivors, we see you. I nearly dropped the radio. Extraction in motion. Safest path is through Tunnel 19. I grabbed the map Leo had marked up and searched for it. Tunnel 19. I found it. It ran beneath the stadium parking structure and curved towards the river. I had a choice. Stay and starve, or trust a voice on the radio. I took the risk. The stadium was quiet. Too quiet. I moved slowly, checking every corner. Nothing moved in the bleachers. The field was empty. No bodies, no infected. Just silence. That made it worse. I found the tunnel entrance near a rusted maintenance door. The lock had been cut recently, clean marks, not from the infected. I pushed the door open and stepped into pitch darkness. It smelled of oil and dust. Somewhere far off, I heard dripping water. I flicked on my phone light and kept moving. For the first 100 feet, it was just me in the tunnel. Then came the sounds, scratching, scraping, a low hiss echoing off the walls. Not human. I ran. Footsteps behind me, fast, then more. Dozens. My light caught something moving. Too many limbs, too fast. I ducked into a side shaft, heart pounding, lungs burning. The creatures rushed past. They didn't see me. Didn't stop, just kept going deeper into the dark like they were chasing something or being led. I kept going in the opposite direction. And then I saw it. A sealed blast door, slightly open. 2 red lights above it, and beyond it, daylight. The door opened just wide enough for me to slip through. It led into an old metro station, abandoned, stripped bare, but lit by industrial lamps and emergency tape. At the far end, a group in hazmat gear stood by an armored vehicle. One of them raised a hand. "Stop right there," he called. "Identify yourself." I raised both hands. "Eric, just Eric, I heard the broadcast." They scanned me for bites. No one talked much. Just fast checks, quick nods. One of them handed me a mask and a water pouch. "You're lucky. That message wasn't meant for public frequencies." What does that mean? It means you weren't supposed to hear it. They guided me into the truck and shut the doors. The engine roared to life, and for the first time in what felt like years, I felt safe. The vehicle moved fast, taking tight corners through underground roads I didn't even know existed. Eventually, we surfaced. I saw the wall. A massive barrier, concrete, steel, and towers. Not built to keep things out, but to keep them in. The gate opened just long enough for us to pass. Inside, it was like another world. Clean streets, functioning lights, people walking around in masks, guarded checkpoints, like a city that never got the emergency alert. A woman in a gray coat met me at the entrance. "You made it," she said. "That's rare." "What is this place?" "Containment Zone Alpha," she replied. "This is where we study what went wrong." "And the people outside?" I asked. She hesitated. They were necessary losses. I felt sick. They knew from the beginning. I was led to a clean room, given fresh clothes, a bed, and food. They told me to rest, but I couldn't sleep. Not after what I'd seen. They think they're safe behind these walls, that the outbreak is under control. But I saw what crawled out of that tunnel. And I know it's not over. Because the final thing I saw before I shut the blast door was one of the infected watching me. Not moving, not attacking, just watching and smiling. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like and subscribe. Your support keeps these creepypastas coming. Until next time, stay alert, stay safe, and never ignore the feeling that something is watching.